Last week, I published part one of the very engaging and interesting conversation with my cousin Pete in England, all about how she got her name, England and its many accents, and perhaps most importantly, the role that Maria plays in her life. And I'll leave a link for you to watch that in the description box below. But you don't have to watch that conversation to enjoy this one, because we moved from speaking about Maria to speaking about owning pets. By the way, I'm Tanya Meyer, founder of Confident English Training, operating at the intersection between efficient language acquisition and use in real-life situations, the practice of awareness raising, and increased levels of happiness, joy, and well-being. What's not to love? Are you a pet owner, cats or dogs in particular? Then stick around, because you'll learn lots of vocabulary to talk about our domestic companions, the general English attitude towards animals, and the one word that defines our relationship with them. Let's get into it. So that was about Maria, but there's also the very common English lifestyle, which is to own dogs. Would you like to tell us a little bit about how that works in England?
Sure. I think not everybody likes dogs, okay? Not everyone is a dog person. I was brought up always to have dogs. So we, as children, always had black Labrador dogs. I don't know why they were always black Labradors. They certainly weren't pedigree. They were just dogs that my parents would just come across, and they would suddenly be part of our family. And we loved them. I remember as a child, one of them was called Buster, and I remember hugging him and squeezing him until he nearly popped, because I loved him so much. You know, he'd play with me in the garden, and you'd tell them all your secrets, and you know, they don't answer back, and it's just joyous if you're into dogs, which we in our family are. So I grew up, I left home. I couldn't have a dog because I used to work. Some people have perhaps small dogs, in which case you could leave them at home all day long, but black Labradors, which we'd had and I knew I wanted, are quite large dogs, and they need to be exercised, and it wouldn't be very fair to just leave them locked up all day long. So I knew I couldn't have a dog until I was in a position to be at home and be able to look after it properly. So that day dawned, gosh, how many years ago was it? It must be 18 years ago. We got our first black Labrador, Marley, as a puppy. God, we loved that dog. Of course, I think most Brits are like this. When you get a pet, it becomes a member of your family. It just happens to have four legs. She was just a very, very special dog. But of course, she lived a fantastic life. She was a very lucky dog because, as I've alluded to before, we live in a part of the country where we can walk them without being on a lead. Miles and miles and miles of either Great Park country or other woods. We live quite near. There's quite a lot of army towns around here from the British Army. So they have a lot of land that actually used to be royal land, but they do all of their training on, and we walk there. It's just lovely. It's a very nice thing to do. The dogs loved it. We loved it. Marley was 3, I think, when we decided we were going to get another one. And so, of course, we called him Bob, as in Bob Marley. He was a white Labrador, which was a bit random. I didn't want a white boy Labrador. I wanted a black girl Labrador. But anyway, he found us, which is what often happens. So he joined the family, and we just had joyful times with them. They literally were part of the family. We took them on holiday.
He was a character.
Oh, Bob used to hide behind trees. He used to go walking and hide, and he understood the concept of hiding. That was what was so interesting, because he'd be ahead of you, and you might see a tip of his tail just peeking out, and you'd think, oh God, he's hiding, and he wouldn't come out until you passed him. So you'd call him, and he wouldn't come out. And then if you try to double bluff him and just stand there and think, right, I'm going to I'm going to wait for you, Bob, you know, until you come out. He just wouldn't, because he'd wait for you to pass. But every so often he'd just sort of go like that to see if you were looking, and then pop back again, because he understood the concept of it. He was delightful dog. So Bob and Marley, we lost Marley 2 years ago, and we lost Bob last year. They were quite old, you know. They had a fantastic life, but the worst thing about having an older dog is you've had them for so long. It's just like a knife in your heart when they go. And all the family just said, we're not going through this again. This is awful. We can't put ourselves through this. And then you last about, I think it was 8 weeks. And I just woke up and went, I can't live my life without a dog. This is absolutely absurd. So my husband banned me from getting another dog, which of course I totally ignored. And a month later, we discovered this litter of Black Labrador puppies not too far from us. And then we got Ziggy. And the reason we called him Ziggy is because Bob Marley has a son called Ziggy. So,
yay, of course. And and he's a male Black Labrador. Mm-hmm.
He's beautiful. And he, you know, it's interesting because everybody's different with their animals. I mean, I'm quite, within my family, I'm going to say I'm quite strict with Ziggy. I'm strict to the point that I understand not everybody likes dogs. So if I'm out walking, he is quite big and he is black and he's got nice new shiny white teeth. So he's never going to do anything, but other people might not know that. So I just need him. If I want him to come to me, he has to come. If I don't want him to go up to somebody, he's not to do that. If I see something ahead that I don't want him to go near, he mustn't do that. He's not allowed to steal food. Those are really the main rules, but I'm quite strict about that. And it pays dividends because it just means that you've got a well-behaved dog. It just means that when you're out and about, or if you go to someone's house for dinner and you take him with you, he's going to behave appropriately.
Okay, sorry. Let me just backtrack a bit. Are there any occasions where you would put Ziggy on the lead?
Yes.
So where would that be?
I'd always put him on a lead if I was anywhere near a road. Always. I'd put him on a lead if I'm out in the open air in the Great Park with him and I see somebody coming towards me, say, with lots of dogs. I won't immediately put him on a lead, but I'll be aware. And sometimes I'll do it not for Ziggy's safety, because he'll always come to me anyway, but you sometimes don't know the other dogs. I know my dog, but I don't know other dogs. And actually, most dogs are fine, but it's usually the owners. So I always have a lead with me in case.
Okay, that's great. And what you're saying is so important. So the next question is, did you train him yourself?
I did. I mean, luckily, it's a very good question that you raise, actually, because we talked quite a long time about getting possibly an older dog that was a rescue dog rather than a puppy. And we will get a rescue dog in the future. Our second, the companion to Ziggy in the future, I'm sure, will be an older rescue dog. But for Ziggy, I wanted him to be a puppy, and I wanted him to be a puppy because I'd learned so much through Bob and Marley about how to look after a dog, how to be a dog. I hate the word owner. I didn't own them. They were part of our family. But, you know, the respect, the mutual respect was important. And I learnt so much from them, having done it not brilliantly to start with them, because I was quite new to it, that with Ziggy, I wanted to do it from day one. And it's been astounding how brilliant he's been. I've been lucky with him. He's generally and genuinely just a very good dog anyway. Like people, they come in all shapes and sizes, and who knows what kind of nutcase he might have been, but he's not. He's a very level-headed, intelligent, lovely dog. And he's been very easy to train. So he's been a joy.
Great. And so obviously he's potty trained. He knows that he needs to go out. Does he live indoors then?
Yes.
Day and night he's indoors with you. Okay.
Yeah.
And then the final question, and that's where I interrupted you, is you take Ziggy to friends' houses for dinner?
Oh, he goes everywhere with me. I literally cart him around with me everywhere. I take him to the stables. I ride Maria and Ziggy comes along next to me.
Oh,
I take Ziggy in my horse box. He sits up front like a person. Billion. I take him literally everywhere. We go to the pub. We go to, I say restaurants. It's much easier in the summer when we've got longer days, and most pubs have got gardens, or restaurants have got gardens or terraces. A lot of them do allow dogs to go inside, but you always have to ask first. I wouldn't dream of not taking Ziggy inside because he always behaves so well. Of
and
course,
would he be on a lead in
yes,
in the pub?
yes,
Yes.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't dream of taking him anywhere like that if he wasn't a well-behaved dog. If he was going to steal food or bark or just be annoying, I wouldn't dream of it. But he doesn't do that. So we go to people's houses, and Ziggy usually comes too. Lots of my friends have got dogs, so on the whole, between us all as a group of friends, if somebody goes on holiday or goes away for a weekend, rather than putting their dog in kennels, they usually come and stay with us.
Sure.
Or Ziggy goes and stays with them. It's great. So
yes.
Over here, well, Ziggy's a male, so I don't, we didn't get Ziggy to breed from him. We got Ziggy as a family member. A lot of male dogs who aren't neutered can, I say, have behavioural problems. They can be, some of them can just be a bit boisterous, shall we say. Ziggy wasn't like that. Ziggy was absolutely, honestly, the perfect dog. What I was finding when I was out walking with him is other dogs were suspicious of him.
Right.
Because he was a full-blooded male, and because he was quite big and black.
Right.
So what was happening was we were just sort of tootling along on our nice walk, and then some innocent little spaniel would come flying out of the bushes, sort of gurring and barking and trying to bite him. And this would happen quite frequently. So I realised there wasn't any point me, even though he was a lovely dog, I did decide to have him done because I didn't want that to happen. And it stopped overnight. So it was the right thing to do.
I'd love to hear about you and your pets. Have you got a dog or a cat? Tell us your story. Take this as an opportunity to practice writing skills and tell us what your pet is, what's their name, how old are they, and how did they become part of your household? And let's get back now to the conversation with Pete, in which she mentions the one word that defines her relationship with animals, a word that's so important that I might even create a whole video about it. So here we go. There aren't any pet shops in the UK.
Not anymore. There were when I was a child. When I was a child, pet shops were a thing, definitely, but not now. It's quite frowned upon now. I think most people would fall into the category now of getting a rescue dog, so a dog who perhaps for whatever reason no longer has its home and is now in a kennels of some description, looking for new homes.
Well, I think it's wonderful. That we talk about this kind of thing. It isn't a topic that's talked about often because, and perhaps you also had this experience that when we were younger, pets really, they were part of the house, but at least in my experience, I've always had dogs growing up. But I didn't feel as close to them as I felt to my dogs, now as an adult. And now I have a cat, and I've also developed such a close relationship with the cat. I mean, these are creatures that either dogs or cats, they have an understanding of the world. They're sentient, you know that they have a personality, that they feel happiness and pain, and that they suffer, they get sick. And so, just because they're not walking, like they don't look like us, it doesn't mean that that they can be ignored or just not taken into account. The opposite, they do need to be taken into account if you're going to have one. So
for me, the big thing, whether it's a horse, a cat, or a dog, the big thing between that animal and you is it's all about trust.
Mm.
That's it.
Both ways, both
Definitely.
ways.
But the animal has to trust you in order for you to ever be able to live in its world and it to do what you want, and vice versa. You have to learn
Right.
to trust one another.
Yes. If there's a relationship of cooperation there, not of, because that's something else, is
Commands.
that,
Yeah.
you know, like domineering and
No.
sort of obligation. So there's none
No.
of that in the
No.
training. There's cooperation because of the trust. So
Yeah.
the animal knows that doing what you say is good for you, but also for them. And that's, I mean, it just makes sense, right? It's just such a nicer relationship when your pet is your friend, you know. So that's why I bang on about it a bit, is because we
Lovely.
can do that. We can be friends with our animals and gain so much from that friendship, as you were saying before. Okay, well, let's leave it there for now. Thank you so much, Pete, for being
Thank
with
you.
me today, and speak soon.
Lovely. Lots of love.
How are pets treated in your culture? What role do they play? As social animals, we share this wonderful planet with many other sentient beings. And I've filmed another video about the environment where you can learn lots of vocabulary about the environment itself, together with the role that animals play, including ourselves. Animals form part of the tapestry of our life. And if we want to be confident and fluent in English, then being able to talk about our thoughts, ideas, our values, and the reasons behind the choices we make. I hope you liked this video. And if you did, give me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and then I'll see you in the next video. Take very good care until then. Bye for now.